Welcome back to Greek, and lesson 14 in effort is yet another action-packed lesson. We're going to learn the perfect active principal part of the verb. In this lesson we're going to get up to 5 of our 6 principal parts. So luo or leo, the present indicative active, is the first principal part. Luso, the future indicative active, is the second principal part, formed with a sigma plus the normal endings we learned for the present. Elisa is the aorist indicative active. It's an augment. Why won't this highlight correctly? An augment plus the stem plus sigma plus alpha endings. And now today the fourth principal part, lelica. I have loosed, the present tense. I have loosed. And we're going to form this with reduplication. We're going to take the first letter of the present stem, we're going to copy it, and we're going to add an epsilon after it. And we're going to call that reduplication, lelica. So lelica, so reduplication plus the present stem plus a kappa plus the perfect endings. And let's take a look at the perfect endings. Get up here to the indicative and move over to the perfect. And here are our perfect endings. A, as, e, amen, ata, asin. A, as, and amen, ata, on, or sometimes asin. So it can be either on or asin. This one here, the third plural, can be alpha nu. Occasionally it'll be asin. Sometimes it'll just be on, alpha nu. Okay, there's our fourth principal part. Oh, and we effort always very helpfully tosses in a free of charge. Lelikanai is the infinitive. To have loosed. Used, well, I don't know, I would say rarely, but not every day. Let's say that. Okay, so the perfect tense in English, it's used in Greek pretty much the same way. I have loosed, and so again, back in our verb chart, I have loosed, you have loosed, he has loosed, we have loosed, y'all have loosed, they have loosed. Okay. Now, we get some interesting things happening with all these additions, with the reduplication and the adding of a kappa, as you may have guessed from other times, other tenses where we've added consonants and vowels. We get some oddities. So first one is if the verb has an initial vowel, diphthong, consonant cluster, or a row, then instead of reduplicating, we're just going to use an epsilon, like it were an epsilon augment. So the example that he gives us is ingidzo, and this gives us a double oddity, because we're not going to reduplicate 2 letters. We're just going to use another epsilon, so that of course is going to give us an eta, eng, e, and then we might as well get our next oddity. Where'd the zeta go? Well, when I add the kappa, let me get down here a bit. Oddities of adding the kappa kills dentals. So tau, delta, theta, zeta, all those are swallowed up by the kappa. So ingidzo, so if I was going to write out how all that was put together, we ended up with plus the rest of the stem. And then that kappa is just going to munch that zeta, and it goes away. And so that's how we end up with engika. From ingidzo, we end up with engika. Just kind of hard to say. All right, furthermore, if the vowel begins with an aspirant, an aspirated consonant, like theta, phi, or he, then we're going to reduplicate with the hard version, with the unaspirated, tau, pi, kappa. And again, there are examples of all this on page 70. So, it's a new set of endings. It's a new way of putting together a tense, adding a different letter that we haven't added before, a kappa. So we need to learn those rules for what drops out. And then, of course, the endings themselves you need to learn. And that's the perfect active. On the top of page 71, he, of course, gives you a nice long list of different irregular fourth principle parts, verbs that have irregular perfects. So you need to make note of those, treat them as vocabulary on the top of page 71. And then we move on to the perfect middle passive, which is a different principal part. It's the fifth principal part. So up here, lelemai, that's the perfect indicative. So if we're going to translate all these principal parts, I loose, I will loose, I loosed, I have loosed for myself, or I was loosed. So we're back to the middle and passive being together under one form in the perfect. Now usually this is only just going to use the fourth principal part, and you're just dropping the kappa. But some of them, it's a different principal part because some of them are going to be, quite different from the rest of the verb. But we just drop that kappa, and so again we get lela and then my. These, what are the endings? Here are the endings. My, sai, tai, metha, stha, ntai. So what's happened is we've dropped off the vowel from the normal middle passive endings. And as you might imagine, adding these letters onto other letters will sometimes cause us problems, but we'll deal with those as we get to various irregular verbs. So here are the two charts we need to make sure we get, are the perfect active and the perfect middle passive. But you also need to understand how those are formed. The reduplication, adding the kappa, and then in irregular fifth principal part, simply dropping the kappa and allowing these endings to be connected right to the stem. My, sai, tai, methus, the untai. Okay. The pluperfect. The pluperfect is not very often used for our sake in the New Testament. Not very often used at all. But you're going to do an augment plus the perfect stem, plus these new endings that we're going to learn for the pluperfect. The pluperfect is I had loosed. How you translate the pluperfect? It's time before past time. I had loosed. We should say also the aspect of the perfect tense is an action that has been completed. Here, let's add this here at the top to talk about the perfect, its aspect. A completed action with ongoing consequences. All right. So if you say I ate lunch, I hate lunch, I ate lunch, but you might still be hungry. But you have to say, well, I've already eaten lunch. I have eaten lunch. The idea is I ate lunch in the past and I'm still full. Past action with ongoing results. One way to think of the perfect. And then the pluperfect is one step in time before that. I had yesterday by this time I had eaten lunch. So reduplication plus the perfect stem plus these endings. Let's take a look at these endings. Get down to the, where do they stick the pluperfect on this? I don't think they stuck the pluperfect on my chart. My chart is defective. Well, let's just type them out then, because the endings are there for you on page 72. The endings are ain. We're gonna have to type in Greek though. Ace, a, amen, aita, asan. So there you go. So there. So elalikein, elalikes, elalike, elalikemen, elaliketa, elalikesan. So those are my pluperfect endings. Again, they won't show up very often, but for the sake of knowing the whole Greek verb, we want to have it on there. Then you have a lot of vocabulary in this lesson, page 72 and 73. So again, this is just another big lesson, just a lot of stuff to learn here. How to form the perfect and the endings, how to form the perfect middle passive and its endings, all these irregularities of adding, of how to reduplicate and how to add a kappa, and then also how to form the middle passive and the pluperfect. So lots of stuff. Take your time, learn it before you move on to the translations, which you'll find, of course, in the next video.